So that proves that they did not turn out okay. Okay people live free. Okay people don't believe that they should have their neighbor pay their way. And that's what it really comes down to. You think the role of government is to protect me from my neighbor's negative behaviors and sin, not to engage me in. So yeah, and get Ann's book about how to talk to a liberal if you must, because I don't talk to them. She wrote the book. I'm like, I don't talk to them, so I don't even need to read that. Did I see one final question?
Yeah. In New Jersey, we have 30 districts, school districts that are charter avid districts, and you have cities like Camden, Asbury Park, Newark. Asbury Park spends $30,000 a year for a kindergartner through 12th grade in that K-12. They're spending $30,000. Camden spends $24,000, and they rob from the entire state to inflate our property taxes so that they can give the money to these quote avid districts.
I know when they send that little property to Sherman to the school, I'm like, oh.
Yeah. So under Corzine administration, in the 4 years he was there, he approved 2 charter schools in 4 years. Christie has done about 8, I think, each year so far. There's a charter school in Camden called the Leap Academy. I'm an architect, and we're doing their expansion on their building in Camden.
Oh, great.
They spend about $12,000 per child. I'm on the school board in Hainsport, and we spend about $11,000, and our kids graduate at the same rate that everyone. Well, Gloria's group in Camden, same group of kids that are going to that school or that school, but their kids graduate, and they have the same proficiency rate that all the suburb schools do. And she's spending about the same dollars per child that all the suburb schools do. But then you have the Camden schools that are spending twice that amount of money, and all the lunch programs and all that crap is all well beyond the $24,000 per child we get. And it's an absolute utter failure. And it's a crime what they're doing. They're continuing this poverty with these folks. And they want out, but there's not enough vision.
You have to fight for vouchers, and I know that New Jersey tried a voucher program, and it was a failure, as California's was, because you can't try to get too much at your first opportunity in a liberal state.
Right.
You just take a little. So all they need is one visionary in that hard-hit community to be the Virginia Walter Ford that just insists that they allow for a voucher program. Charters are wonderful, but they're still government, and so it's hard to have a real competitive arena without allowing for the private sector engaged in that as well, to where churches can become schools again, and people have to compete for children. Once you have to start competing for children, I mean, education is a product. You have to start competing to educate children, a lot more education will go on. I don't know what the New Jersey Constitution allows in terms of opportunity scholarships. I know like in Florida they passed this horrible. They would have to make a constitutional change in order to get vouchers in their state now, because the liberals are going around.
Well, the Supreme Court justices went beyond our Constitution and set up these avid districts to begin with.
With your Supreme Court?
Yes.
Your state, yeah.
Without going, the legislature's supposed to spend the money, and they said, well, we know better how to spend the money.
Yep. Wait, who does it? The court?
The Supreme Court.
Okay, so the court, but in your Constitution, do they not allow for others to come into the educational arena?
Constitution doesn't matter in New Jersey.
So you shouldn't care either. Then you guys should probably fight for vouchers. You find somebody that'll help you fight for vouchers, and you get one, and then it starts to birth in other areas. That's what they did in Ohio. Because there's no other way that it can fix. You're absolutely right. The disproportionate dollar amount. And it's really sad that if we don't hurry, it's going to get even sadder, because the Catholics are starting to leave. They're the ones that are still there in our hardest hit communities trying to do a little education, but they're starting to leave. They can't afford to keep doing this. So the longer it takes us to let money follow children to the schools their parents want. So that is one of the issues that there's a lot of new black activity in there. There's an organization called BAO who has now grown over the last maybe 7 or 8 years. Institute for Justice was first in law in this. The Alliance for School Choice, Milton Friedman, God bless that man, to get the ball rolling. And now there are a lot more blacks that are starting to fight for it. So it's just really a matter of time. The challenge is finding willing vessels, what's in current law, because that will stand in your way. I mean, we had one in Florida that got to their courts and they said, we have uniform schools and you're not uniform, Baptists aren't like Catholics, and so they were able to, as if their public schools were uniform. I guess they are uniform, they all fail. But what was interesting in Florida too, while that voucher program was in existence, Jeb Bush had said, after No Child Left Behind, it gave a little bit of open door for experimenting in the States. And so Jeb Bush said, we ought to, if your child failed, it's 9 o'clock, I gotta go.
Yeah.
He said, then we're gonna start this, I said it so that I'll know when I better stop, because I will talk forever and I'll miss my train, and then that means I'll miss my plane, and I can't do either one. Because I really need to get to Alabama. The event came on my calendar after Alabama, they would be very soon. He started this experiment. He said, let's let a few kids out. And they had a little sampling, and they went to court. The NAACP and the people for the American Way sued them. But while they were in court, he said, well, if your school fails, then we're going to allow more kids out. I think at that point, it would have been like 60,000 kids would have been availed to these vouchers if their school failed.
Yeah.
That year, not one school failed.
Wow.
Not one school. That in 1 year, just the threat of vouchers, not one of the Florida schools failed. Competition really makes a difference. And so I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you so much for coming.